Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're seeing what it takes to get through all of the stages in Super Mario Bros. 3 as Small Mario. Every level without power-ups? Is it even possible? The vast array of power-ups is one of the main distinguishing features of this revered Super Mario Bros. Entry. There's of course all the items on the stages themselves, plus all of the extras to earn through mini-battles, toad houses, and receiving letters from the princess. Amazingly, you have several panels to store these items, which gives you a huge layer of power, with the ability to become nearly unstoppable whenever you decide you need it the most. Aside from making you far more capable and tanking more hits, you even get items that allow you to skip levels entirely. It should also be mentioned that there's plenty of stages that are optional given the layout of the world's maps. In fact, altogether, there's over 15 levels that you don't need to play on your way to each of these king's castles. When playing through the 90 total levels in Super Mario Bros. 3, there's only 4 that actually require a power-up to get through them. One requires a mushroom to break blocks, 2 of them require flying to solve their puzzles, and the 4th requires the star. The other 86 of these levels, basically 95% of the game, they're all doable as Small Mario. That's a lot of levels.
As a bonus, this challenge was completed twice, on Super Nintendo and the original Nintendo.
Have you ever tried a challenge like this before? What do you think are the hardest levels? Well, let's get right into it. What are the hardest levels to make it through without any power-ups? Here are the top 10 hardest levels in Super Mario Bros. 3 as Small Mario. Number 10. World 8, Tanks 1. The first of the 2 tank side-scrollers, this is our first test upon the final fiery stretch toward Bowser's Castle. The first fleet of tanks is the first of several auto-scrollers in the final world. There's plenty of cannonballs and bombs going off, which can certainly lead to issues. Not to mention this level could be argued as even more difficult on NES because there's so little contrast between the black background and the black ammunition. Darkland is true to its name on the original, leading to less contrast of cannonballs, bombs, and bullet bills. On the Super Nintendo, it's more clear where the danger is with the detailed backgrounds. Either way, with all the projectiles and the slow pace, they're like endurance tests. It just gets tiresome to go a couple minutes without getting hit at all. Projectile-heavy auto-scrollers aren't exactly the most fun to keep repeating. They're not messing around at this point. In previous worlds, the Koopa Kids did have their modest share of bullet bills and some cannonballs, but now it really feels like an all-out war. It really is tense out here. The stakes just feel so high. We have come very far from the cute little dopey enemies in the beginning. Now you're up against warfare. Absolutely filling the sound channels with their gun and explosion sound effects. There's plenty of times where it feels like there's never-ending open fire from your enemy. Thank goodness you can land on these bullets, otherwise you'd really be in trouble. Even still, there's plenty of times you may find yourself in a pickle. A little side note to mention, by the way, if you fall next to the final tank with the pipe to the boss, you may run the timer out if you can't manage to get back up there. It's a little surprising that this can happen. Thankfully, you can barely get up there, but it's pretty tricky because there's basically no room to build up any momentum for the jump. The way the level ends may surprise you too with a boomerang, bro. Don't want to get clipped here and repeat the entire tank fleet again for another try. Have to hang tight for a good opening to put down Tanks 1. There's a lot to catch you out here, it's pretty long, and finishing it off can be a bit nerve-wracking. World 8 Tanks 1 starting things off at number 10 on the list. Number 9. World 6 Fortress 3. The third fortress of the Ice World isn't really messing around. It's got plenty of danger floating around with its multiple orbiting balls and ghosts, plus conveyor belts to run on, making every bit you go feel like there's a constant adjustment to make. You do have to be calculated out here getting past these setups, like luring Boos into more ideal spots before making your move. The whomp they've got on a conveyor belt can also feel tight to get past. There's a lot to send you back to the beginning. The floors with boos popping out unexpectedly too is quite the problem. Toward the end, they really lay it on thick with these guys, along with orbs, and sometimes, when making these jumps near all of this, you're kind of just hoping for the best. It's fortunately not a super long stage, but these moves along the way aren't anything to scoff at. They're a healthy test of your timing and precision for sure. Fortunately, the common boss at the end, Boom Boom, is really predictable as long as you don't let him build up any speed. It's best to smother him unless you want to go through all of that stuff again. With all of the tight jumps, numerous hazards, and thoughtful movement required, World 6 Fortress 3 has earned number 9 on the list. Number 8, World 7, Piranha Plant 1. This menacing piranha plant visible on the overworld is home to such a classic example of rage quit material as Small Mario. It's an optional level. Beating it clears a path in the overworld that possesses multiple junctions. The pace starts off impeding you right away with tall pipes and fire-breathing piranha plants. It gets your attention before introducing the bulk of this level's challenge. With the rising and lowering of these munchers, you need to time your transfers in order to stay safe, which is made even harder with two major factors. First of all, they throw you into a real problem if you're moving along with this perceived rhythm just to be duped by another plant overlapping with these munchers on its own timer. And secondly, hitboxes are really pokey with these guys. You'll be on a safe pipe and still get clipped if you're too close to the edge. This is one of those levels where on a typical playthrough, a player may throw on an invincibility star or at least a power-up to tank some hits, but it really becomes something you have to respect and contend with when you can't walk all over it. Once you manage to get by this part, you're still not home free. There's some more piranha plants and fireballs that can really put you in a tight squeeze. Fortunately, the level isn't very long at all, but they sure do hit you hard with what they've got and demand quite a bit to get through this stage without assistance. It's a perfect example of how much the right item could help, and they know it's a pain. That's why it rewards you with an item, and even stays down after game overs. Even they thought having to make it through this short and spicy stage twice is asking too much. It's especially brutal without power-ups, making it a testy number 8 on the list. Number 7, World 7 Stage 4. We're taking a swim in what is often considered the hardest water level in the entire game. There ends up being a whole lot out here to kill you. There's so many opportunities to use a Fire Flower or Hammer Bro suit, but without any offense, you're just trying to keep your cool and bob in the few safe spaces that you can find out here. There are plenty of fish swimming back and forth. There's also red orbs from these plants that'll really make things hard if you don't get by quickly. There's also some dreaded deadly enemies like these squids with their little minions. It can be a problem how they bob and sink around and send death in 4 swirling directions. They can really make you unsure of where to go. Throw all this together with a big old jellyfish minefield and a couple of bubbas to take up more space, this water level is sloshing with danger. Trying to avoid everything can just be super annoying and tight to deal with. Important to note that this stage is also optional, so having to contend with such a stage in this format when you'd usually just skip it can make for quite the humbling experience. You might just find yourself begging for mercy during tight calls as they absolutely pack this auto-scroller with sketchy moment after sketchy moment. It's a painful chore and major relief to get through this slow, crowded water stage. It demanded enough precision and patience to earn number 7 on the list. Number 6, World 8 Stage 1. When you make it through Bowser's initial fleet of tanks and battleships, then some mini stages if hands pull you underneath. You go through a warp pipe, and on the other side, this new area you enter has all the lights out, which is pretty dang intimidating and gives off the impression that there's a butt ton of stages out here. It appears like you've got a long road ahead, when in reality, there's just 2 numbered stages and a fortress to beat on this screen. They start off with a pretty intimidating, blacked out stage that has some challenging parts.
It should be mentioned just how different the contrast and overall vibe is on the Super Nintendo, with a lush, leafy green overgrowth background. It should definitely be pointed out that the additional color and graphics makes Darkland, at the very least, a tad more approachable. It overall just doesn't seem quite as bad. At the end of the day though, they're the same stage and it comes down to a handful of deliberately challenging setups between its piranha plants and bullet bills. Some of these jumps are intimidating. One toward the end, bouncing off a music box, is extra slippery and awkward. The piranha plants and fireballs can trip you up. The placements of some of these enemies and bullet bill stacks are deadly. This is already known as a difficult stage to finish, so of course it's just that much less forgiving as Small Mario, making 8-1 number 6 on the list. Number 5. World 6 Stage 1. Now this may catch some folks by surprise. 8-1 is a lot more infamous than 6-1, but believe me, without power-ups, it'll change how you see this stage and plenty of World 6 forever. Arriving to World 6 is where the Small Mario Challenge really spikes upward in difficulty. World 5 definitely starts to get there, when you're up in the clouds with those sketchy rotating flippers and deadly moments, but the overall ice slipperiness alongside a more dangerous blend of enemies ensures that you have to be a lot more careful. Namely, these piranha plants blowing the balls into the air. No longer can you mow down these dangerous, very hard to read enemies. These guys are the perfect example of platforming alone leveling up the difficulty in a monstrous way, where it feels like you've entered expert mode. These guys are not fun to deal with at all. If you want to start experiencing the true pain of this challenge and don't want to ease into it, just grab a couple of those warp whistles and come on over to World 6. You truly have a large can of hurt waiting for you there. The slippery surface, full of situations that are hard to read and safely assess, any mistake, back to the beginning. They can be so awkward to maneuver past. Putting a couple of these guys together near fireballs is downright diabolical. This right here is when the challenge gets serious. Overall, it's not even a long level, but these bizarre obstacles with Small Mario can almost make it feel never ending, which is why World 6 Stage 1 has earned number 5 on the list. Number 4. World 8 Air Fleet. Things move quite a bit quicker than your typical auto-scroller, and there's a lot of precise jumping you have to do. There's no way around that. They're not at all the most ridiculous jumps or anything, but stringing together so many consecutively at a quick pace without a single mistake is where it could all get a bit overwhelming. Mix in all those wrench-throwing moles, and it works out to be a pretty unique challenge. It's definitely wise to bop them when you can. Sometimes the thrown wrenches will remain on screen and give you too much clutter between all these jumps you have to make. Delaying jumps when needed or rushing them before a wrench is where you're going to land is essential. While it has a faster pace, it's at least just under a minute, which is about half the length of some of these other auto-scrollers. Things move pretty quickly and can be tense with consecutive jumps while trying to avoid those wrenches before reaching the tube to the boss. Fortunately, it ends with Boom Boom, who is no problem as long as you smother him with some tight timing. Don't want him to get loose and send you back to the beginning of these jet-fueled airships. These airships and their pace are often considered the hardest part in the entire game, so it's no surprise that it could earn a high ranking of number 4 on the list. Number 3. Bowser's Castle. Of course, the last stand from the Koopa King himself has to make the list, and it's earned quite a high placement because Bowser's Castle has quite a bit of danger out to get you. Right off the bat, you're met with a laser of all things. At least running by is a consistent way past all of that. The initial staircase is something you'll come to learn, but these orbs can be kind of annoying or awkward, at least at first. Once you're over lava, the jumps are pretty demanding. There's some fireballs and consecutive single-space jumps with a bit of pressure from the blocks falling if you're on them too long. Then there's the part with fireballs coming your way as you platform over more lava. These aren't exactly easy or high margin of error jumps to make. The castle itself altogether has plenty of tricky spots that can trip you up on your way to Bowser. Then when it comes to fighting him, Bowser packs on the pressure quite decently. When you can't even try to bring a power-up into the fight to help tank some hits, it makes the castle and the fight with him pretty tense. Bowser's also pretty interesting where he may shoot 2 or 3 fireballs. He doesn't always shoot the exact same. It can be weird to deal with their trajectory at times, and they can come at different heights or angles, followed by his leap and ground pound. Sometimes when he shoots 3 fireballs, the third comes right before he shoots into the air and comes smashing down. It can be tight to get out of there in time. Overall, there's plenty of precise platforming, tons of single-space landing zones, other jumps with incoming fireballs, and then Bowser is just icing on the cake and a test of nerves with an encounter that isn't entirely predictable, dealing with his fireballs and large walloping sprite. It's the last level in the game and has earned its place at number 3 on the list. Number 2. World 7, Ludwig's Airship. It may seem outlandish to put the boss from World 7 over the final boss in World 8, but when it comes to Small Mario and the overall pain that can go into clearing these levels, Ludwig's Airship is a supreme choice of frustration. Lucky us, because not only have we just boarded the longest auto-scroller in the entire game, it's also packed with multiple flames and some rough stretch jumps over these nuts that you can spin through, making for less than solid ground. The more you sit with this stage attempting at a Small Mario, the more you realize you're incredibly eager to move on, but there's a brutal roadblock at the end, making you repeat these slow, multiple, sketchy leaps that can overall add up, especially if you're struggling to make it through. The absolute worst combo with this type of stage is it has the most broken boss in the entire game. It didn't exactly appear to be as bad on the NES, but let me tell you, Ludwig on the Mario All-Stars cart is an inconsistent nightmare. If we had power-ups to tank a hit or two, some surprises wouldn't really be a big deal, since these guys only take 3 bops to the head. But Ludwig is so much more dangerous than your typical Koopaling. First of all, this guy quakes the ground when he lands from jumps, leaving you totally helpless. Just like that, you're repeating the entire airship. Between his wand projectiles and those quaking jumps, this is already enough to be a really tense battle, similarly to the other heavyweight Koopaling, Roy from World 5. But what makes this fight actually much worse is something as cruel and unpredictable as a wonky hitbox thrown into the mix. With an airship so long and a boss so unforgiving, not to mention unfair, now here you have yourself one of the worst and brutal tests as Small Mario in Super Mario Bros. 3. It's hard enough to bop this guy 3 times under normal circumstances, but with no safety net and uncertainty going for the attack, now this fight can really get into your head. To have the nerve and patience to keep going through this tense and tedious auto-scroller for another attempt at a chance to get lucky on Ludwig is how World 7's Ludwig's ship ranked a heart-wrenching and merciless number 2 on the list. Before we get to number 1, of course we have honorable mentions. There are plenty of notable challenges on the way through these 8 worlds. Let's take a few minutes to show some of the most challenging moments along the way as Small Mario. To be fair, with so many levels, there really is a lot to say. The lack of any safety net makes every level have a bit more pressure. There's a good handful of these that could be argued into the list, whether it's their tricky jumps, surplus of enemies, projectiles, or a mix of all of these. Things creep up in World 3, especially when you get to Big Bertha. There's also a fortress with plenty of swimming, and the squeezes get tighter here than ever before between these boo floors. Speaking of the water, we also have to mention some of the overworld battles can actually be really challenging, like when you run into 2 Hammer Bros in the water. There's nothing easy about this at all. It's tough to get in there and take both of them out safely. Was relieved to actually catch some footage of being successful with these guys migrating spots between levels and failures. Another really dangerous optional battle is when you run into 2 Fireball Bros in World 2, back in the secret area that holds a warp whistle. Not a lot of safety out here, with fireballs constantly bouncing your way. Another tough example of these types of battles is a really obscure mention in the coin ship.
While the stage is free of hazards and full of coins, two boomerang bros both facing in on you isn't easy to overcome, especially with how rarely they show up and you only get one try before they disappear. Wendy's airship in World 3 is also nothing to overlook. There's plenty of projectiles out here that really isn't much more tame than stages late in the game. Plus she's uniquely troublesome with her ring projectiles. She releases one after each bop, so by the end, it's kind of ridiculous in here. While World 4 is a cool fan favorite with its giant enemies, it's not actually that difficult and it's a surprisingly short world too. Hardest part is probably the airship with an abundance of flames. Then World 5 picks things up a bit more, and has quite a bit of spinning platforms as you hop through its cloudy skies. The fire-breathing enemies that chase you through the air and then explode can be a big pain. Any extended time with the nightmare, cloud-riding, spiny-throwing Lakitus make for a level that you might quickly despise and hope to not get stuck on for too long. It's a challenging thing to deal with while trying to make your jumps and move along in the stage. Speaking of really tough enemies, have to shout out World 5's airship with Roy. He's got the same heavyweight abilities as Ludwig, and his ship is no laughing matter at all, with a lot of bullets going off in some sections. With what a pain it is to repeat this auto-scroller and how tough he can be without a power-up, this could certainly be argued into the list. World 6 definitely has its moments, with its slippery surfaces and abundant enemies. Stage 6 is another solid challenge, lots of fish to look out for during the swimming, and then multiple spike enemies and their projectiles can make this a very hard level to finish off. 6-7 is also tough and could be overwhelming on this icy autoscroller with a couple more of those super dangerous flame chomp enemies. The Piranha plants in World 7. The second plant test is another short but challenging one, and similarly to World 6, it's just overall more difficult with more abundant enemy placements. Finally, in World 8, Stage 2, where the evil Mr. Sun comes back from the desert in World 2, not a very easy stage here late in the game with testy jumps to finish the level. Plus World 8's Tanks 2 is the last level before Bowser, didn't seem quite as bad or as long as the first tank stage, but still has enough going on to certainly be considered a challenge. Alright, here we are at number 1. What is the hardest level to get through as Small Mario in Super Mario Bros. 3? Number 1. World 7, Stage 8. If you want a level that perfectly blends together what makes 6-1 and the absolute worst of World 7's plants, it's 7-8. It doesn't have slippery surfaces like 6-1, but it takes the worst enemy from it and places them around a bunch of stubbornly placed piranha plants. The situations here are so deliberately difficult, they can be shockingly tight and feel almost unpredictable. These are the brutal moments that'll really make you wish you had some fireballs, hammers, or your raccoon tail, because the several challenging setups in this level get a bit stressful with so much precision required to make it through all of these guys without a single mistake. Some of these jumps just have you waiting for a safe window to make your move, while trying to keep yourself out of harm's way from the rinse and repeat shots of fireballs from these menacing plants. Any dangers that plants seem to pose in previous worlds don't even seem to exist compared to all of this. 7-8 as Small Mario has serious rage quit potential. The openings can feel so small and hard to come by, especially when you mix in intervals with a bit of randomness. Every time you step into each one of these tests, you can only hope for the best situation, and that it doesn't just slip through your fingers at some point during this horrendously harsh stage for Small Mario. Plus, to cap it all off, they've got a totally unique surprise enemy just to ruin your day. This little plant, all we've seen these guys do is hop and nip at Mario. So what is this guy doing shooting fireballs? This is a bitter pill to swallow. Getting sent back now, have to go through all of that again, just to hope for a better outcome against this new enemy out of nowhere. This level has so much going on, there normally would be 4 power-ups to help a player in any ordinary playthrough. But when you enter and use 0 of them, multiple attempts at this stage with Small Mario is bound to make it clear that this challenge is no joke at all. It is so tense, dicey, and demanding, earning its tremendous place at number 1 on the list. But that's just how it came together for me. Have you guys ever tried this challenge before or anything like it? Thank you so much for watching. There's a whole lot more where that came from, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.